besties, welcome to my July wrap up. This month I read a total of 10 books, which is pretty good considering I was in a reading slump for the first week and a half to 2 weeks, and then I just couldn't stop reading. Pretty much all the books I read this month were really good, so I'm excited to be sharing them with you guys. I thought that before we actually get into the books, I would actually go through my reading stats for the month of July. So as I said, I read a total of 10 books, which equaled to 3,944 pages. My top 3 moods were light-hearted, emotional, and funny, which is pretty accurate. And I read 9 physical books and 1 ebook, and they were all fiction. So those are my reading stats. So now let's get into the actual wrap-up. I thought that the way that I would set up this reading wrap-up would actually be going through the books in order from like my lowest rated to my highest rated books, because normally I do wrap-ups in the order that I read books, but I thought this would be a fun twist on the typical wrap-ups that I normally do. My lowest rated book of this month is definitely going to be an unpopular opinion because so many people love this book. I just thought the book was very average, and that was Book Lovers by Emily Henry. This is a new adult contemporary romance. We follow 2 people in like the book publishing industry. So Nora is a cutthroat literary agent and Charlie is a book editor. They met 2 years ago when Nora was trying to basically sell Charlie one of her clients' books, but Charlie rejected the book and they kind of just did not get along after that. Then 2 years has passed by and Nora and her sister Libby go on a month-long vacation to the small town, and turns out that small town is where Charlie lives. So they end up having another run-in together and it goes on from there. There were aspects of this book that I really liked. For instance, I love the fact that the characters in this book loved books. I also just really loved that Emily Henry had tall girl representation in this book. I feel like a lot of romance books always have like that major height difference with the girls being like really short and the guys being like really tall, but I like that this book had a female protagonist who was tall and Charlie was like basically the same height, and I just really, I don't know, I personally like that dynamic as someone who is more in the average to tall height. I appreciated that, but this book as a whole, I just think I've realized that Emily Henry's writing is not personally something that I really enjoy. The book was like pretty slow and I was getting really bored very fast. With that being said, like I really wanted to enjoy this book, but I just don't think Emily Henry books are for me personally. But I think if you loved Beach Read and People We Meet on Vacation, you would definitely love Book Lovers. I did end up giving this one a 3 out of 5 stars though, because there were some aspects in this book that I did enjoy, but overall as a whole it's not really a book for me, but I can see why a lot of people do like this book. It's just not for me. The next book was actually the ebook that I read, which was Hide by Nadine Mohaya. This is a young adult fantasy surrounding werewolves. I have never read a book solely focused on werewolves. Like I read Twilight, which has werewolves in it, but not a whole book dedicated to werewolves. So I didn't know anything about it. Like I didn't know what to expect. So this book follows Kyra. Kyra was adopted into a family of werewolf hunters, and then on her 17th birthday she finds out that she's a werewolf, so she has to flee her adopted family home because her hunter family is basically going to kill her, and she stumbles upon a werewolf pack which she eventually joins. It's got great found family aspect, which I love found family, and there is also romance in this book as well. Kyra falls in love with a lone wolf, so it's kind of like a sort of forbidden romance, but like not really, because he chose to leave his pack, which is kind of like frowned upon in the werewolf universe. As I said, I really liked the found family aspect of this book, but this book is told in Kyra's perspective and she's meant to be 17, but I feel like her internal dialogue and just her dialogue in general read really young, and it was kind of immature and just really annoying as a whole. Like there were so many moments of this book where I was just like, this is so cringe. Even though like I enjoyed the whole like plot and storyline and the found family aspect, I just found the main character to be so annoying because of how she spoke, and the things that she would say or think was just really annoying to read. I don't know, overall I did end up rating this one a 3.5 stars. All right, right, now we're moving on to my 4-star reads. So the first 4-star read I have is Love Her or Lose Her by Tessa Bailey. This is the second book in the Hot and Hamid series, and I freaking love this friendship group and this world in general, and I just love Tessa Bailey's writing. This book follows Rosie and Dominic's story. This is second chance romance and marriage reconciliation. Rosie and Dominic have been together since they were kids, and now they're adults, they're married, and their marriage is on the rocks. And they end up going to this couple counseling session, learn each other's love languages, and we also have a subplot of Rosie and her dream of starting her own restaurant. I really enjoyed the second chance romance aspect of this. I really enjoyed the love languages that was incorporated into this, because you guys know I love anything to do with love languages. I just find it so interesting. So I love that this book incorporated that. There was a lot of character growth individually and together as a couple as well. And yeah, it was just a very easy read, and I really liked it. So I gave it 4 stars. Then we've got Set on You by Amy Lee. This is an enemies to lovers romance, and it is a gym-based romance, which I've never read a gym romance before. So I didn't know if I was even gonna like it, because I'm not really a gym gal, but I enjoyed this book. So this follows our curvy fitness influencer named Crystal and her love interest, aka gym nemesis, who is also a hot firefighter named Scott. Scott is meant to be like, description wise, he is meant to be like Chris Evans, which we love. I really enjoyed this book. I love that we have some body positivity and self-acceptance in this book. Loved it. I just really loved the characters. It was just a cute, cheesy romance. I loved the family in this book. Crystal's family was just everything. And also Crystal's sister Tara is a bookstagrammer, and her book comes out next year, and I'm so excited for it. But this book was just so interesting. I also really liked it because not only is it just like a, you know, a normal novel, but we also get to see some of Crystal's Instagram posts, since she is a fitness influencer. Very easy read, definitely recommend, and it was 4 stars. My Colleen Hoover read of the month was Ugly Love. I know, I finally read this book, and I filmed a reading vlog for it as well, which I posted last week, so go check that out if you haven't already, because you get to see my reactions, my thought process, and a full-on in-depth review of this book. But if you haven't heard of this book, this is Friends with Benefits and Brother's Best Friend. We follow Tate and Miles, and their relationship is, well, you'll know if you read this book, it's definitely not your swoony typical romance. It's very deep and deals with a lot of heavy topics in this book as well, so please check trigger warnings before you get into this book. But Tate moves in with her brother, and then she meets Miles, who is Tate's brother's best friend slash co-worker. They're both pilots, love that. And he is also Tate's next door neighbor while she's rooming with her brother. And they end up making this friends with benefits deal, but the only catch that Miles has is for Tate to never ask about his past and never expect a future with her. And you understand why through Miles's perspective, because I forgot to mention this is dual POV, and you also get past and present of Miles's perspective to see why he is the way he is, and it's sad. It's definitely an emotional read as well. I personally really enjoyed this book. Honestly, I have yet to read a Colleen Hoover book that I don't like. This one also got a 4 stars from me. My mystery pick of the month was Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. This was so intriguing and kept me on my toes and was so sad as well. This follows a 15-year-old girl named Ellie who goes missing one day, and she was the light of her mother's life, as you can imagine. Her mother, even after 10 years has gone by and the case is officially closed, she's still demanding answers. And then she meets this guy and his 9-year-old daughter, and his 9-year-old daughter is literally a spitting image of Ellie, and it brings up even more questions and more secrets get unraveled, and it is so freaking interesting. I loved, completely adored this book. You get multiple perspectives, multiple timelines. You even get the perspective from Ellie from when she goes missing as well, which I found so interesting, but like so heartbreaking as well. And even though I knew this wasn't going to be like a happy ending or anything, I was still having hope when I was reading from Ellie's perspective, and it was just so sad. But I really enjoyed this story as a whole, and I ended up rating this one 4.25 stars, if we're being specific. And we've got 4 books left, so these were my top 4 books of the month. Coming in at number 4 was The Fill-In Boyfriend by Casey West. This book was so freaking cute. I reckon if you guys loved To All the Boys That I've Loved Before, you will love this book because it kind of has a similar vibe. This is a young adult contemporary romance. We follow Gia Montgomery. She gets dumped by her boyfriend on prom night, and she freaks out because she needs to walk into prom with her boyfriend because her friends don't believe that she actually has a boyfriend. So she asks this guy at a parking lot to be her fill-in prom date slash fill-in boyfriend, and the story goes from there. This book was just such a light, fluffy, sweet read. The romance was just so swoony, and I love the fill-in boyfriend, Hayden. He was just so cute. One thing that really bugged me about this book though was Gia's best friends. Like, they did not pass the vibe check at all. But this book as a whole, I love the romance. It was just so sweet, and this was just a really good palate cleanser, and I enjoyed it. I actually read this in one sitting, and I rated this one 4.5 stars. Another 4.5-star read for me was Second First Impressions by Sally Thorne. This book was just so freaking good. I loved the main characters, I loved the side characters, I loved the setting. There was just so many things about this book that I really enjoyed. So we follow Ruthie. Ruthie is a 24-year-old, and she works at a retirement village, and she also lives there as well, which is a perk of working there. And she is very much like an old soul. She doesn't really go out, nights at home, cooking, having a bath, going to bed early. She's very much like me, to be honest, and I think that's why I really like this book. And then we've got Teddy, and Teddy is actually the son of the retirement village owner. He's kind of described as like sort of a bad boy, kind of like he's got tattoos, he's got a motorbike, like he's very much like the opposite of Ruthie, and he kind of brings Ruthie out of her shell, but they don't really have a good first interaction because Teddy mistakes Ruthie for an old lady, and if I was Ruthie, I'd probably be like really offended too. But this romance was just so sweet. It was cute, it was wholesome. I love the friendship dynamics. I love the little old ladies in this book as well. Like, the banter between them, so good. And I just really enjoyed this story, and I gave it 4.5 stars for that reason. And I have 2 5-star reads this month. So the first one is actually the book that I recently finished, and that was The Selection by Kiera Cass. I finally read this book and I loved it. So this is Hunger Games meets The Bachelor, and I'll tell you why. In this dystopian world, everyone's family is categorized into numbers. Higher your number is, the lower class you are. Number ones are like the royal family, and then it goes down from there. And in this world, there's something called the selection. So the selection is for the prince. He is searching for his wife. So every girl who's like eligible within this world, no matter which class they're in, they can enter this like competition to win the prince's heart and become his wife and the princess. And the main character that we follow, her name's America Singer. I literally, like, the names in this book is so weird, and America is also a singer. How original. But America is not really wanting to put her hand up to actually sign up for the selection because she actually has a secret love, which is a forbidden love because she is a number 5 and she is in love with a number 6, which is a lower class. But because her family is struggling with money, she does end up actually signing up for the selection program, and she ends up getting picked, and she goes to the royal family competing with 34 other girls for the prince's heart. This book was phenomenal. I think if I read this as a 16-year-old, I definitely would have loved it a lot more. But me as a 23-year-old, I rated this still 5 out of 5 stars. It was so interesting. I love the story. I love the characters. I love the plot. I love the love triangle, which I don't normally love triangles, but I'm still stuck between Team Aspen or Team Maxon, because I honestly do like both, but I'm leaning more towards Team Maxon because I just love America and Maxon together, but I also just like love Aspen as a person. I don't know, let me know what team you're on. I feel like everyone's gonna be Team Maxon because I've seen a lot of people hating on Aspen, but I just love Aspen too. But yeah, this one was a 5 out of 5 star read for me. And then last but definitely not least, my favorite book of the month was The Truth About Love by Maisie Myers. I also tapped this book. I don't know if you can tell, but I absolutely adored this book. This is one of the most beautiful books I have ever read. It is incredible. This is a second chance romance, right person, wrong time, amazing mental health representation, and it's very angsty. This follows Alden and Summer Rain. I love those names. They met when they were teenagers and they were very much in love, but something happens for their relationship to fall apart, and even though they are both mutually pining for each other and completely in love, it's just constantly right person, wrong time, and Alden just ends up saying, I'm gonna wait for you, when you're ready, come find me. And then when she comes and finds him, he's already married. So yeah, this is an emotional roller coaster. I did cry, but it does have a happy ending, which I love. I read this like closer to the start of the month, and it's now the end of July, and I am still thinking about this book because it is freaking phenomenal. There are some amazing quotes in this book. I also just really love the mental health representation, as I mentioned, because I feel like the way that mental health was written in this book was done in a really good way. Like, it was very realistic and raw, and I just adored that. And I love this story, and I cannot recommend this book enough to you guys. It is so underrated. I don't hear that many people talking about this, and this author actually has another book coming out next month, which I'm so excited to read. But yeah, this is definitely my favorite book that I read this month. So that concludes my July wrap up. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing and hearing all the books that I read this month. Let me know in the comments if you have read any of the books I just showed you, or what your favorite book you read this month was, because I'd love to know. And give this video a huge thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel down below. Also, I posted my August TBR, so if you want to see what I want to read in the month of August, go check out that video. Also, go check out my Instagram. I have a personal one where I post more like fashion and lifestyle content, and then I also have a bookstagram that I share with my friend Ali, where we post more book fun content on there as well. And I will have my Goodreads and my Amazon wishlist linked down below too, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye.